Welcome all to our, what are we, three already? Third, fourth regular meeting. I will look towards Mr. Cutter for our Pledge of Allegiance, which the flag to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, well, we're a full house on board members, so thank you all for coming. And we'll start off with act on the minutes of our third regular meeting for September 18th. Anybody have any questions, admissions, or suggestions regarding those minutes? Seeing none, accept them as presented. Report of the board chair. Normally I don't have anything today, but I will say today though, thank you so much. I want to thank Eben for making it happen and Carrie for making it happen. I want to welcome our two student representatives here. I do apologize, I wrote it down a second ago. Thank you.
William Lucas?
Yes, William Lucas and Garrett Starbird. Yeah. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate it. And I believe that there's another gentleman, right?
Ricky Whitmore.
Ricky Whitmore. And you guys are going to do some sort of rotation, and somebody's always going to be here with. So,
always be here.
Well, great. Yeah. We really appreciate it. Are you guys all juniors?
Yes.
Oh, so with any luck, we can.
Can I just, so we normally will have a student representative report, so we'll start that next time. And so if you guys just maybe chat before, each of you say what's going on at school, like what kids, I mean, Mr. Shaw can give you some ideas, but when we get to all the reports, you guys are gonna now end up on the agenda to offer just some things that are going on at the high school. Okay?
All right, thank you and welcome, guys. All right, report of the board chair. Just did that. Public comment. Should I read the paper?
Usually ask if anybody's gonna do
All right,
it.
I guess we will. All right, so we'll move past that one. Communications. To my knowledge, I have no communications. Apparently, I still don't.
No,
I do.
you
I do have
Yeah,
communications.
You're moving really fast for me. I love it.
All right, I have communications. From Douglas Parker, Principal Green. We have a grant award, $1,000 from the Literacy Fund at the Maine Community Foundation. Grant funding is to be used for an author visit for students at Green Central School. Donation coordinated by Sabrina Ouellette, and must be a teacher at the school.
Yeah.
Yep. And on behalf of the Green Central School, do we know who the author might be at this point?
Cynthia Lord.
Oh, right here.
Those were my hand scratching.
Yeah, I know. But Cynthia Lord.
She lives in Brunswick.
Yeah, they've been trying to book her, I think, for a couple of years now. She's been booked, that they're able to secure it.
Oh, great. Do you have any other communication? Oh, cool. All right, superintendent communications.
So I'd like to report a resignation, Wanda Poland, bus aide, effective 9/26. And then we have hired a new bus driver, Terry Canning. He's going to be primarily focusing on some of our athletic trips so that we can stop contracting all of them. And we also have an additional sub at Leavitt and additional sub at Leeds. That's what we got.
All right. To my knowledge, we have no adjustments to the agenda other than, I don't even think we made a lot this week.
No?
So that takes us to committee reports. Finance, Ashley.
We did not meet. Our next meeting is October 30th at 7 a.m. at the Central Building.
Thank you, Ashley. PTB, I've heard rumor of you guys. Oh.
So there is something from finance on the consent agenda, so do you want to is there anything to comment on that, just in case? The finance, August operating expenditure reports, anything?
I don't have anything specific.
Is there something?
No,
Okay.
I'm just making sure, I'm just managing.
PTB, Mr. Cutter.
Yep. So we had a transportation update. Transportation bus driving staffing is still kind of hanging on by a thread. We're right on the line. We did have a transportation staff member who got their license who is going to be able to help as a fill-in. One did not get their certification, And we have another individual who started training and another one that is in the works to begin training. We are looking to transition from 23 full-size bus drivers and 1 minibus driver to 22 and 2 minibus drivers. There's one that wants to make the transition, which has a slight pay cut from a full-size bus to a minibus that would also give some flexibility as far as subbing in on potential runs, because some of the runs are small enough that a minibus can actually cover it, as well as some sports coverage. We also talked about potential bathroom and locker room renovations in association with the policy committee starting discussions about the Title IX, related policy that we sent to them at the end of last year. So we're adding to the RFQ from a potential architecture firm some potential solutions that we could work into locker rooms and bathrooms district-wide as far as enhancing privacy and separation and that sort of thing. So that's going to be added to the RFQ when we get a firm involved. We discussed facility use on Sundays. Dave gave us an update about kind of how widespread it's mostly TAA, but town team, town basketball uses the gyms. As it stands right now, Saturday, the gyms in Turner, so the high school, middle school, TPS, and TES, are all basically in use from 7 to 3:30. About 80% of that is not school related. It's TAA, town team ball. That's covered by one custodian that he doesn't volunteer, but he offers up his time to open the gyms and monitor the gyms. And at this time, we're very short in custodial staffing district-wide. We're actually down 2 second shift positions right now entirely. So there's a lot of flux between people moving schools, and the idea of opening up use on Sundays is not really feasible at the moment because we simply don't have anyone who's willing to do it. And so at that point, it's kind of a moot point because we just don't have the bodies. In relation to that, Dave is starting to get some quotes from third-party contracting services for potential custodial work to clean the schools during second shift. They got some quotes back that weren't so good and had some guidelines that weren't going to work, so they're kind of feeling those out. And we're also entertaining the idea of maybe putting some high school kids on training and getting them in there for the second shift to start learning some valuable life skills. Lastly, we got just into our capital planning review, and we're going to be bringing a feasibility study we had done to an executive session in the future regarding potential field upgrades.
Thank you, Alex. Anybody have any questions for Alex?
I'm just going to clarify, the subcontracting is for when we don't have people, not to replace open positions, just not to replace, yes, not to replace our employees, but when we can't find subs, when we can't hire, to have a temporary solution.
If we did the high school kid student type thing, that might be something we might need to talk, because that would be more of a, I can see that being more of a permanent program. So that might be something we're going to have to address with the union, I'm going to guess. I don't know how.
No, if they no, we would hire them as employees.
Just hire them outright.
We could
Yeah,
hire them as
yeah,
substitutes.
Yeah, or hire them as substitutes. We do that in the summer,
Okay.
so, yeah.
Anybody else have any questions for PTB? All right. Not seeing any. Thank you very much. Crystal, Policy Committee.
We didn't meet tonight. Our next meeting is October 16th. We do have 2 items on the consent agenda. The first one is BDE, the board committees, where we just separated policy and curriculum. And the other one is 8.4, which is the deletion of policy KDD, news media relations, because that went into the superintendent job description that we approved. That's it.
Thank you, Crystal. Does anybody have any questions for Crystal on the Policy Committee? Not seeing any at this point, so thank you very much. Curriculum committee was on hiatus until hopefully very first part or early November. So other than that, that takes us to administrator report. Administrator. Mr. Parker.
Good evening. Any initial questions about the board report? Yes, sir.
In the suspensions behavior data,
Yep.
Green Central has had 47 major incidents. Yes, go a little more detail what major is.
So, yeah, so we do have some descriptors that guide the teachers into what's a major versus a minor. So when it's a minor, it's, you know, again, things like roughhousing, things like that, particularly with injury, inappropriate language, depending upon whether or not it's directed at somebody or just kind of a curse word. But again, it all involves reteaching and a variety of interactions with staff, reteaching the expectations, restating the expectations, practicing the expectations. But it is delineated to determine what's dealt with at the classroom level versus enough to bring to the office. So, you know, disrespect to staff, like I said, any kind of intentional fighting, anything like that. So yeah, they do break up minors and majors. But does that answer your
Yes,
question?
it does. Thank you.
Any other questions for Principal Parker?
I did want to also just point out, at the end of the month, we did nail down average daily student attendance rate is now 97%, not 96.8, right? And we had our attendance, we had our celebration, our monthly assembly, and grades 1, 3, and 4 got a three-way tie for 98% attendance. So we kind of break that out. They get a certificate at the end of each grade level. Gets that kind of blows that out of the water. Gets their, you know, their coveted certificate. And we've also begun a bulletin board by the gym. Any student that gets 95% or better attendance gets their first name on the board by grade level, and that's gotten a lot of foot traffic in the last few days. So,
What grades was it again?
I'm sorry.
What grades got the 98%?
1, 3, and 4. Yeah, and we do that monthly.
Alex?
I don't know if it's for Doug or for Gary, but the special education ed tech positions that are open
Yep.
and covered by a sub, are those covered by a sub from, you know, at the same level? So are they a special ed sub, or is it just a common substitute?
It's just a common substitute,
Okay.
Doug can.
Yeah, and where they're particularly comfortable, and some subs really gravitate toward the regular classroom, others gravitate specifically to special ed.
Okay.
So it's so that they have the option of, is this the kid you want, or do you want something else?
Okay.
Also would like to point out, it's the return of Wonder Wednesdays. For those of you that are not aware of Wonder Wednesdays, they're coming back. It's for kindergarten, first and second grade, and this is their option. Once a month they get together with their GT teachers, and the classroom teachers are there as well, and the kids go through a variety of STEM activities and a lot of hands-on experiential learning and teamwork. So those are coming again, and we're really excited to have that back. That starts next Wednesday. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? Not seeing anything. Principal Shaw.
Good evening, everybody.
Good.
So when it was a month ago now, I guess, talked about the start of school, talked about it being a good start of school. I would contend that it has still been a good start of school now that we're a month into it. The weather, albeit we could use the rain, has provided opportunities for classes to do some stuff outside that they don't always get to do in the fall. Ivy Damon has a dual enrollment art class that has spent a lot of time in the courtyard getting perspective drawings from things in the courtyard. Chris Gray had students with the ERV class take a lap around Turner Center the last few days with a history lesson of the different buildings and what has been going on in Turner Center. So it's been a busy place around the high school. I'm not going to say the students love them, but I'm going to tell you all, I love our new cafeteria tables. They're awesome. The seats being attached to the table, so I'm not having to constantly shuffle around chairs. It's a game changer all the way around. They're not as comfortable as a chair, but cafeteria cleanup is way more efficient, and it's gone really well. The only other thing I would add, and I briefly mentioned it at the end of my report, we have homecoming coming up, not this weekend, but next weekend. So it will be a busy place here in Turner Center on Saturday the 11th. We'll have Spirit Week all next week. Hallway decorating started yesterday. We'll have a pep rally on Thursday afternoon because it's a workshop day on Friday, so we'll pep rally on Thursday. And then games will start off on Saturday morning and take us all the way through the day, culminating with the 7 o'clock football game and floats at halftime. And I started my extended weather watch as long as I find whatever forecast will give me the 15-day forecast, and that's where I start. I start watching it 15 days out, and the weather for next weekend is going to be great. So,
Thank you so much.
yeah.
Kyle.
On the suspensions of behavior data, clarified you had 8 students to date suspended, and compared to last year was 1 in school, 1 out of
Yep.
school. What do you think that reason is?
We had a rash of vaping incidents. That sums it up.
Got rid of the phones and the
Your addiction one way or the
just-
other.
it comes in waves, and that was the wave.
got it.
How is the phone thing going a month into it?
We were discussing it at Network Leaders today. The engagement of students in class and in the building is astronomically better than it was prior to. And I think I mentioned it at the last meeting, but I'll mention it again. It's hard to hear the bell in the cafeteria because there's not really a good speaker in there for the bell system. So it's not uncommon for us to have to tell them, hey, the bell rang, you need to go, because they don't have their phones out to know what time it is because nobody's looking at the clock. So there's a lot of conversation going on in the cafeteria that has not gone on, and there's a lot more interaction going on in classrooms as well.
Has it been challenging to keep the students keeping their phones away, like in hallways and other, like, are they
I mean,
keeping them in their pockets?
We get a few every day. We get
Yeah.
a few every day, but
Yeah.
it's not. It hasn't been. I personally thought lunch was going to be the biggest. Like, this is going to be a colossal thing. It hasn't been. It's gone fairly smooth. I think partly because the students understand that we're all on the same boat. So it's not. It's not really. It has not turned into a thing as of yet. It is October 2nd, but it seems to be moving into a routine now.
Thank you. Really? Carrie?
I'm just curious.
Oh, we have 2 high school students
We
right here,
should.
yeah.
I'm gonna put him on the spot. If either of you guys want to share any thoughts from this change. You were both at the school last year, right?
Yeah, so the phones during class have definitely gone down, but a lot of students have been using phones in the bathrooms where there are no cameras. I catch a
Yeah,
lot.
I'm not diving in there.
Yeah. And I see a lot of students that stay late in the bathrooms on their phones. But other than that, you're good.
He's staying, he knows better than that. God. All right, well, thank you very much. All right. That takes us to Superintendent Med.
Yeah. Okay, so, food service is adding about 30 minutes a day to one of their employees just to handle staffing shortages, production demands. They've got a lot of kids participating. So just notifying you, he can cover it through his budget, and just a reminder that we don't provide any money to food service. So I'm just letting you know that that's what he's doing there. Transportation, we talked a lot about it at PTB. We've had cancellations. We've sort of had a cluster of things happen, staffing issues, illness, bereavement, things just have all happened at the same time. So we're pretty much on par with the number of cancellations we had last fall. Like, I kept track of it. We've had 11 so far. At this time last year, we'd had 10. So it's the same. We do have a driver an employee who's just gotten her permit, another one who's gonna try and get it. we've added a driver, so we continue to work at it, but we're holding steady, is what I would say. Holding steady on sort of cancellations and still spreading it out so it doesn't hit the same group of families twice, trying to keep, moving it between the towns so there's not an undue burden on one group of kids and families. So last couple weeks, I've covered at Leeds Central School for 3 different days, which has been really fun. We had indoor recess at one point where I learned about Danny Go, look him up on YouTube, he was fun. I did my regular meetings with Doug and Shannon, regular meetings with Teresa, Rebecca, and Gabby. We, Ed Leadership met last Thursday we did a lot of work on planning the workshop day that's coming up on the 10th. Today was the very first meeting of the newly formed district data team. And the 2 things that we are going to be working on as priorities are the district report card. That's all the data that we look at as part of the strategic plan, and making sure that the system we have in place for putting that all together is not me gathering it from Jason and the principals and then figuring out, like, we need to develop a system to it so it's not just dependent on an individual person. But then also developing protocols for and expectations for data use in school, at the school level and the classroom level. We spent a lot of time talking about developing common assessments. So we need processes and procedures, like once we have those, how are we going to keep that data? What do we expect teachers to do with that data? What does that all look like? And so we need to sort of lay those things out to begin the process of training people on that. And then I did attend the Department of Transportation listening session at the Turner Town office on Monday for the bridge replacement. That bridge, so this is the Turner Center Road Bridge. For those of you who don't know, it's sort of between the high school and Scott Farm. There's 2 possibilities. One is replacing the deck, which would keep it one-way traffic for 6 months potentially, with all the traffic issues associated with that. And then there's the other of just closing it for 4 or 5 months for a full replacement. Neither option's a good option, but they heard from lots of people. I just listened to make sure that I knew what was going on, but there's lots of concerns either way. I mean, there's not a good solution to it. So I did spend some time at the Turner Town office learning about that. And then the only other items on the consent agenda are the 2 job descriptions that are updated. One is for the business manager, not really a ton of significant changes. The adult director, that one was so old and out of date. That one basically is a complete redo. So the old job description is kind of just all canceled. I used job descriptions from area districts to just make sure that we were getting it up to date. It was very outdated. I think it last was looked at in So December 2024, what you'll see on there is that's when it was, or 2021. We found a draft that should have been brought to the board, but I think whatever happened back then, it never made it here. So Martha had that as revised, but it didn't actually get revised. So the last time it's been looked at is 2008.
Any questions for Carrie on any of this? Take this opportunity to respond to the board. Just a quick question. Everything's still going pretty good at primary school?
Yeah, no, it's been great to have Teresa there full-time because she's having an opportunity to periodically meet with Elaine Gammon, who's still recovering, but to say, Elaine, this is what you want to have happen here, right? So that she's putting things in place the way Elaine wants them, so when she returns, things just continue to move smoothly. So they're developing a good working relationship sort of virtually to help sort of continue to do that. But I will just say Lindsay Holson, Maureen McDonald. Maureen is the school counselor, Lindsay's the dean of students. They're just such a professional, excellent team that even the days that I was there, I felt like, okay, there's a team here keeping things from going off the rails. So it's a good group. But yeah, they're making good progress there. I miss having Teresa in the office, though. It's not really the same.
It'd be good to get curriculum back up.
Yeah, 100%. She will be excited about
Any
that.
other questions for Carrie or anything? Not seeing none. Going once, going twice. Consent agenda. All right. Anybody, before I read through them, anybody have any of the items in the consent agenda they'd like to have pulled out for further discussion? Okay, not seeing any. Consent agenda, items to be acted upon collectively unless a board member asks that a specific item be acted upon individually. 8.1, review and adoption of superintendent recommendation of job descriptions. 8.1.1, business manager. 8.1.2, director of adult and community education. 8.2, consideration and approval of the finance committee recommendation to approve August operating and expenditure reports. 8.3, consideration of policy committee recommended first reading and acknowledgement of revised policy BDE board committees. And lastly, 8.4, consideration of policy committee recommended deletion of policy KDD, news media relations. Do I have a motion?
I'll move
Motion.
to approve the consent agenda.
Motion from Joe, do I have a second? Second for Crystal? I saw it.
Oh, I was gonna give it to
You were gonna give it to Kyle, but I saw you.
Saw his hand go up.
Motion is second. Consent agenda, but any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Looks to be unanimous. All right. All those opposed? No, we move on. Old business. We, from up here, have no old business. Does anybody have any other old business we need to bring forward at this time? Something we might have overlooked? Not seeing any. That takes us to new business. Presentation by Principal Conway. Oh, and we have paper. Forest Industry, thank you.
Get to watch the map right now.
Yes, we're very excited about this screen.
I like the
I
screen.
didn't actually know that, how it works.
This is brand new. If it works tonight, it'll be a miracle.
Is this like one of those like political votes in states and counties?
Yeah, like this
Oh,
is
it's a touch screen.
like I feel like Keith Carson at the weather, doing the weather.
So, Turner Elementary School, we currently have about 310 students. On Monday, we'll have 312, so it's exciting. Or, I don't know, it's a lot right now, but this year we're very focused on providing inclusive education, academic excellence and growth, and then promoting the positive school culture. So this is just a quick overview of what I'll be going through. I'll talk a little bit about our staff team, go over our student enrollment a little bit more than I just did, what that looks like in day-to-day. Attendance, our behavior, student engagement. We are one of 3 schools in Maine and 2 in our district for the inclusion grant. And then look at our school-wide goals and what that means for going forward. So this is our staff. There's a few people not in here. I did try and, well, I did actually cut and paste them in, but you could tell, so I did. But we have a couple of staff that are itinerant right now, so they go mostly to TPS and TPS, like our music teacher and our music and art teacher. And then we have a band teacher that's at all 3 of the elementary schools. But I think probably similar to TPS, we have a pretty good team. We all work hard together. And we have 17 classroom teachers, 4 special ed teachers, 1 school counselor, a dean, a nurse, and then other multiple support staff, including some of the techs that help with our day-to-day. So this is our enrollment right now. Our 3rd grade is the biggest right now. That has 5 classrooms. And then all the other grades have 4 classrooms. And for whatever reason, I think the last 3 years, our 6th grade has always been right around the 8, but they always have 4 classrooms. It's just somehow bumps up right at that point. This is just a breakdown of our students and the variety, or like the diversity of our students. So we have 17 students, or 6% of our population with a 504. 74 of our students have an IEP, or special education, so it's 24% of our population. Economically disadvantaged. This data, is just based on whoever fills it out. And this is from last year, so I don't know what it will look like exactly this year, but that was 89 students. And then gifted and talented, we have 28 students, which is pretty high for the district, so that's 9% of our population. So when you think about all of that, it's just a pretty diverse school as far as student needs, different areas all along. Our classrooms are, I just have to show this picture because the teacher was so proud of it. The kids did this on their own. They had silent sustained reading, and they didn't want to get distracted by each other, so they put the pillows between them. I just thought it was cute. Our classrooms are about 17 to 20 in each classroom. Our attendance rates, so daily average attendance has been pretty consistent the past 2 years at 95%. And then our chronic absence rate has gone down a little bit. This again is the last 2 years, so we were at about 15% in 23-24, and now we're at 11%.
Not to change, just like, what are they doing?
The picture.
Oh, they are, we used to do, third grade used to have something called Fun Fridays. So they have like these little homework, like boards that they fill out, choice boards that they do. And it used to be that students who completed all that would have like little extra recess sort of thing. And the third grade teachers changed that because that's just like a fun activity and made it STEM Friday. So now the kids have like an extra STEM opportunity every Friday. So this picture, the kids are drawing pictures of planets.
Okay.
And so they're trying to do it in order. I might have added another picture. Each classroom, each of the third grade classrooms has a different like experiment or activity that they're doing that's based on like science or math.
Cool.
This is our behavior data. So it's the same thing, it's just our major referrals, so the bigger behaviors that we're seeing. I think it's pretty amazing. A big difference from last year versus 23-24 is we had a team of students. So if you look at the green is 23-24, blue is last year, but then I added in our orange. We don't have a lot yet because it's still early on. By doing this September, it's still looking pretty good. So these are all the student system supports. So in the strategic plan, objective 1 is about building student engagement and promoting community building. We work really hard as a school to consider all of our students' individual needs and then finding where's the best way to make sure that they're able to participate in the instruction as well as get whatever differentiation that they need. Because we know some students can be pushed further, or some students need to have work that's broken down a little bit more to support them. With that, it's important to think about all habits of work. So we have a habits of work rubric that our 5th and 6th graders are scored on every 3 weeks, and each have different awards. 6th graders habits of work rubric is if they get a habits of work lanyard that they wear, they have some different incentives. They get to have lunch in a different location. They have an extra 20-minute recess every Friday sort of thing. I think the big thing is that they get to wear a lanyard, and that's a big deal for the 6th graders. For 5th graders, it's not as complex just because of their age. We used to have it so 5th graders could have the same habits of work benefits, but now 5th graders will get their rubric, they'll go over it with their teachers, and then they get an extra incentive, earned activity that they get to do together. But the reason I bring that up is because no matter who the student is, we want all of our students to practice academic perseverance. So one thing that we notice a lot is kids who give up. So they might look at something, and I've sat down with kids who are I can a piece of paper or on a test. I'm like, okay, that tells me you don't know anything. But then if you sit, you talk to them, they just quit before they even tried. Or they looked at the first question, and maybe the question itself just seemed confusing to them. So we're really working on perseverance. We're working on taking responsibility, and I think that would be for, sometimes you'll hear kids say oh, the teacher just doesn't like me. They gave me this grade. It's no, the teacher, it has nothing to do with that, right? It's about what did you show in your paper, what did you learn? But taking responsibility also goes for if students are at recess and they do something to another person. So taking accountability for what they did, knowing that, you know, they may make mistakes, but if you don't take responsibility for it, then you can't move forward. It's hard to learn from that. And then, you know, obviously being respectful. When I think about how this work, I think about what would you want an employee to come to you with. So I would want my employees to be respectful, to persevere, to take responsibility for their actions, be on time, that sort of thing. So that's something that we think is really important for all kids. And in this picture, this is Sam Albert, who's our Dean of Students, and she's doing like a team building activity with with a 6th grade class in that picture. And then 2 of the kids have buckets on their head in the back. I'm not sure why they did that, but yes. At first I was like, why, how are they floating? And I was like, oh, they're not. These students, you can see, have their little badges on them. We also work really hard to provide a lot of student club activities. We have a drama club. They've done a play the past couple of years. Last year they did Inside Out. We have a cheer club that meets once a week. And at first we thought this was just going to be something small, but it's like the 5th and 6th graders love it. Running club actually isn't through us. It's done through adult ed, but one of our teachers does it. And it happens here right after school on Tuesdays. And she usually does it in the fall or the spring. But that's it's huge, the number of kids who want to stay after school and just run around around the campus. We have book club, that is grades 3 through 6, and it's held after school. We have 2 different leadership groups. We have a 3-4 leadership group that meets during their lunch once a week, and we have a 5-6 leadership group that also meets during their lunchtime. We have a tech club that has varied. It kind of depends on student interest. So last year, the tech club did a lot of work with Legos. And this year, I think she's still working on figuring out what to have for the students, if they'd rather use like robotics or what that might be. And then our yearbook is done by our 6th grade, but they meet a little bit after school and then during the school day during their lunchtime. Going into academics, so these are our math road scores. So we did show a little bit of growth from 23, 24 to last year. And this is the students who met or exceeded the math proficiency for the CMA. I think for us, one thing that I'm super excited about is the new illustrative math program that we're using. Prior to this, we had some pilot math programs that we were doing. But then I also think some of the online programs that we used didn't really push productive struggle with our kids. So sometimes the work that they would do on their NWEAs or whatever it might be, when I think about some of the math programs, we use something called, I don't even think of the name, CERN math. And it would pretty much, like if a kid didn't know what the answer is, they could click help and it gave them the answer. So there was no like trying to figure out that math problem, sitting down and figure it out on their own. So we started last year, but we all use IXL as one of the differentiators our online program goes, but then we all use illustrative math, which has a lot more manipulatives. So for kids who have a hard time visualizing or being able to understand like what a cube looks like or whatever that might be, they can pick something up and use the tangible items to help with that. A lot of teachers have finished the first unit or towards the end of that first unit. For illustrative math, it's very focused. They did pre-assessments, and they have like a mid-module sort of thing. It's been really interesting, and the conversations I hear from teachers is amazing about what they need to do to support their kids. So noticing if students, they're just not understanding it for whatever reason, instead of it being like, oh, they don't get it, they're not trying or whatever, there's more about like, they need more time with the TAM, they need more time with the indicators, whatever that may be. So fingers crossed for going forward. All right, so this to me was super exciting, and I know it's not just Turner Elementary, I think it's all the elementary schools, but in 23-24, our reading growth was 33.7%. It jumped up to 59.1% last year. that reading proficiency last year. So it's just, the jumps are better. And I think that's because of our illustrative, HMH into reading, which is the new reading program that we started last year. And when we looked at our student scores, it was like, whoa, this is awesome. One of the things I really like with that program is that students can put their scores in, or they can do some of those assessments right online, and then it'll feed out to the teachers where those students like areas of strength, areas that they need to work on, what are some different activities that could work for them. So we've been doing that some.
Am I looking at it correctly? So like fourth grade was third grade the year prior, and fifth was fourth the year prior.
Yeah.
So it looks like they've all gone down in their proficiency from the prior year.
Unless my color stuff mixed up when I did it. I don't know, it's positive, but you're right, that doesn't look. I don't know if when I generated it on iPads, what it is.
So I think the question is that third grade class, two different third grade classes?
So this would be,
Yes.
yes. Yes.
So I think what Ashley is saying, just for clarification, when you look at the blue band on third grade, and then you look at the red band on fourth grade, those are the same students.
Yes.
And
but
so
I-
her question or comment was
I
that
think
it
I
went
wonder
down.
what my chart got. It's really good, with my chart got messed up. It's what, I don't know, if I looked at it, but I messed up the order up here or something. I'll get that for you, I can fix it, it's probably like, but I don't know if my numbers here got mixed up. But I can get you the numbers too, because that's what I have originally, which shows that, the growth.
We believe there's growth.
Yeah, so there's this, we'll look at this, and then I'll get you the other. Oh, okay, well, this works.
Oh, geez.
Let's wait it on. If I get it.
Wild.
It's playing just a little,
Buffering.
It's loading.
it's gonna be like an old Japanese movie.
You know all about
As
buffering.
teachers, students, and parents get ready to start the school year across Maine, some schools are preparing to change the way students learn in their classrooms.
Ronnie Perillo went to Turner to tell us about this new program.
Starting this school year, it'll be a new chapter for schools just like Turner Elementary here as they work to make classrooms more inclusive.
I've championed for her to be in the mainstream classroom for her entire educational career.
For Carrie Woodcock, ensuring children like her daughter Sammy can learn with others is everything.
I've always said that whatever access my daughter gets, it's not just about her getting the access, but it's about everybody coming after her having that same access.
This year, 3 schools in Maine will take the first step in getting that access to more students like Sammy, thanks to a new federal grant and a partnership with the University of Maine system, all with the goal of placing more special education students in general education classrooms.
When we're teaching kids in silos and they're in self-contained classrooms, they're not being exposed to the expectations that we have for our other students.
According to the National Center for Education Statistics, 21% of students in Maine need special education services. That's the second highest rate in the country. But the state has struggled with including those children in general education classrooms.
It's about access to the curriculum, but for parents, that social piece is so much more important because that social growth is what allows them to be successful outside of the school community.
The 5-year pilot program is aiming to make classrooms more inclusive by training teachers to accommodate all types of learners in the curriculum, rather than keeping the students separate, and teaching multiple learning styles. It's something advocates like Carrie say helps all students beyond the hours between the bells.
Everyone else in the district to set the stage to be ready for this.
for the two schools to really engage in this process.
Now, school districts are ready to start training teachers.
Our goal district-wide eventually in this work is to have 80% of students with disabilities spending 80% or more of their time in their general education classroom.
And advocates for the program say they hope it will be a model that doesn't just take off in Maine, but in the rest of the country as well. In Turner, I'm Ronnie Perillo for Maine's Total Coverage.
And one thing that we've done with the grant so far is there's a lot of
it is possible that lawmakers
Whoa.
could reach a deal prior to midnight on
Just turn it down.
It seems unlikely that lawmakers
Nope.
will come.
Oh.
just need them. So one thing that we've done is when there's certain things that like we need, every school has different things that they need to work on. We just finished our NWEAs for the fall, and we were looking at some of the scores, and there's some kids that I'm like, we're still not reaching them with what we're doing for reading interventions. And I was able to talk to our two head people for the grant, and they're going to help provide us with a training for the special ed teachers on what kind of other instructional practices can we use for those kids that it's more like they're still struggling with like some of the phonics pieces and some of the interventions we've already put in place with the tried and true instructional practices that have worked for all other kids. It's just not working for these kids, and as they get older, they're getting more frustrated because especially with reading, it includes writing. You have to write everything, and so you can put in all those accommodations for like, okay, they can tell me how they understand it, but long term, we want to also support the kids in writing, in reading, and being able to do more than just have these accommodations in place. Another thing that we've done with this grant is we think we're very careful about, we want to make sure our students get what they need, but still following whatever their least restrictive environment is. So we have a couple of students that we reached out to them and worked with our special ed director and figured out what activities, because the whole classroom may or may not have been the right choice for them, just due to their needs, but there's certain classes that would be really beneficial to them, certain areas of the school that would be really beneficial to them. So working with them to make sure that we're providing the students with their individual needs, not just inclusion, because if you just include kids into something but you don't provide them with the right support, then that's not best practice. But having those practices in place so that the students can learn and grow, but also get some of those social pieces that they wouldn't get if they were just out of the classroom all the time. Talked about that a little bit, but we worked really hard to have adults in the classroom. I went into a music class the other day, because that's generally it's a high energy, it's a pretty high energy class now. The kids are pretty excited. They were doing like a note competition on trying to figure out what each note was. But there was two students who are nonverbal, so they had like one adult with them to kind of support them, especially when it gets too loud. And then there was another staff person who kept going in to check in on a student who had a lot of anxiety, and who previously would not be able to be in that class, but trying to make sure we have all the right supports in place, so that if something does become too stimulated or something for a student, then we can take them out and give them what they need, but then also have them with their classmates when they can be. We also have our ed techs that have a space in the classroom so that after the full group instruction, they may have a small group that they take and they work with the student on their goals. So it might be their IEP goals, or it might be that the teacher has identified that they need to work on their fluency or whatever it might be. But there's usually a few kids in the classroom that need some of those same interventions or same supports in place. And so after the full group or all group instruction, they'll break it down or move it, like push it forward for students depending on what they need. So as said that, and I mentioned how we have 9% of our students who are in GT, and our GT teachers are often going in, listening to that whole group instruction, and then either you doing the small group in the classroom, but like building off of what the teacher taught, or extending it, and taking the moment again, building it off of what the teacher taught. So if they're learning about theme, her lesson with those kids is going to be about theme. Universal accommodations. So prior to this, it might be that students, it's just tough because you always, like if you have a student who needs a multiplication chart to help them with some of the longer math problems, that they would get held up on that. We put it in their IEP plan that they can have access to a multiplication chart. The reality is that the kids who need a multiplication chart are going to use it. So now it's available. If you were to go into a classroom, the teacher has them available. So if the student needs it, they're going to use it. And that helps them with the fluency, but it also helps them be able to understand some of those bigger concepts without getting stuck at some of the stuff early on. And I mentioned the small group instruction already. So we have 2 school goals. Both of our goals are based off of a combination of like inclusive practices, because we want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of all of our students, but also giving them the individual, like the social skills that they need, but then the individual needs as well. But then also clarity. So last year, Teresa had brought in PD on the Clarity for Learning. It's back this year. And ultimately what that is about is making sure that kids know what they're learning and why. And I think that's true for everything that we do. So our first one is really based on instructional strategies to promote an inclusive learning, but also academic achievement. So like I said, with the small group instruction, every school, this is also based on our strategic plan. I think that's still objective 1, but with the morning meetings, so every classroom has a morning meeting, which is like a check-in in the morning, and then they look at their day, what their special might be for the day, what they're going to be doing in their special, and using those programs that I mentioned, so the illustrative math and the H&H with fidelity. So we've been, right now teachers are finishing up one unit or module and then moving on to another, and just checking in and making sure that if students are struggling, why is that? Is that because the lesson wasn't taught right? Is it because that student needs extra help? What might it be? But then checking in with our kids. We want to make sure our kids know what they're learning and why. And it's been really nice going into classrooms and having kids talk about, like, oh yeah, we talked about this last class, or even with some of the specials that they have once a week, and they're like, last week we learned about this. But then also having kids, I was in Miss DeWitt's classroom the other day, and she has kids track their progress for their own learning. So where are you in understanding theme and understanding central idea, whatever that might be. And then goal 2, I think this also is all about clarity. So building a safe and supportive learning environment. So we will measure improvement in behavior and climate indicators, showing a 10% increase in students with major incidents and positive gains on school climate surveys as a result of consistent expectations, refined duty practices, and inclusive support. So the goal with this is kids are going to do things they shouldn't do. But sometimes we can do something to prevent that from happening. So the more that we, as a staff, are being very consistent with our behavior expectations, so that kids, usually when kids have high expectations, more often than not they can meet them. And if they can't, then we can provide them with some other support. Like maybe they need an adult that's close to them to help them with some of those expectations. And then also to be very clear with some of our, like when we think about duty practices, when we're at recess, we have locations for each staff. So one staff might be assigned to the playground, another staff might be assigned to the soccer area, but then making sure that if whoever is at the soccer area, we're all following the same rules. Instead of being like, oh, this person's here, so it doesn't matter what we do. Or a kickball, whatever it might be. And then just making sure that the focus when you're at duty is whatever area you're assigned to. And I don't know if you saw him, he was reading a book.
Well, we noticed.
We had Walter.
Oh, nightmares.
Yeah. I told a teacher one time that I was like, be careful, I think you might be getting a new student. He climbs on furniture, he's all over the place. I thought the teacher knew I was joking, she did not. And I was at a meeting and she was like, who am I getting? I'm like, no, I'm sorry, it's just a bobcat. Yes.
So just before the math scores, you were talking about student clubs. You talked about leadership groups. Could you talk a little bit more about those?
Sure, so we have 2 leadership groups. We've had these, I know there was a leadership group at least before I started. I think there was one before. But we switched it to be grades 3 and 4 together and then 5 and 6. So grades 3 and 4, they do use a leadership curriculum that our Kara Getty, who's one of the GT teachers, she actually runs our 5-6 leadership club. And so it's a curriculum that she has used before. And so they go over different ways of how to be a good leader, how to be a good, community citizen sort of thing, but they also do some really fun stuff. So our 3-4 might come up with, last year they came up with like different lunch themes. And we did like a Harry Potter lunch one time, and they decorated all the tables, like with a different Harry Potter tablecloth sort of thing, and then had different trivia sort of things. But it's largely whatever like initiative they do. We want to make sure it's good for the school. But there's a lot of student voice in that. And they have to apply.
Thank you.
You were talking about the how passes. Is that something new that's happening, or has that been going on for years?
So for us, this is our 3rd year.
Okay.
And we started it based on the middle school has it. So we actually took the middle school rubric, and then it's essentially the same rubric, but the language is a little bit younger just to support our students. Our first year, it was that both grades 5 and 6 would get scored the same. We'd all have the how pass if they earned it, and then have some of those initiatives or incentives. So like the extra activity on Fridays and the different lunch area. After the first year, we realized for our 5th graders, that was a lot for them. And if they didn't get it, like the disappointment was harder. So not as much learning on that happened. So last year and then now this year too, we changed it. So 5th grade, they still get scored. They meet with their teacher. They take home their rubric to share with their parents. And it will say like, something to work on is if something gets hard, sticking to it or asking for help or whatever it might be. But then they just have like one little incentive, which is like good practice for them. But it's been really good. It's really, and we have on the back of it for our 6th graders is the expectation is if you have a how pass, you're going to be in school.
My experience with it is pretty motivating, at least for my students. So I think it's cool.
Yes, yeah, and we did it a couple weeks ago, and there's a couple of kids that were super close. And, they were upset at first, but then one of them was like, but now I know what I need to do to get better. So that was fingers crossed.
Anybody else have any questions? I just have one. When it comes to the inclusion, and one of the most important parts of it, as you said, is to make sure they have the adult supervision and staff to try to make the classroom run as smooth as possible. How are we dealing with, I'm not sure if we've hit it yet, but, staff outages? Do we still try to have the inclusion if we're down an ed tech or two? We're there to help them?
So, we've had more subs this year than probably ever before, but we're still not getting them subs out. We have a pretty dynamic process that we use if we have staff out, and it's to prevent like kind of the mayhem sort of thing if someone's out and you don't know. So if a teacher's out, what they do is they put it in our system. We have an online document that they put it in that goes out to all staff in the morning. And then within it, it'll have the plan. More often than not, the plan is like split classes. So the teachers, but this is based on, it's really based on the team and knowing the students and what they need. So if it was like a fourth grade classrooms and there's 17 kids in there, they may divide the kids up into 3 different classrooms for the day. And so they still have a teacher, and then the ed techs are still able to go into the classrooms with them. If we have a sub, and again, it's unique, we try really hard to make it the best that we can. The sub will be in the classroom, and either the ed tech will teach the class, and then the sub will act as like the support for the kids that need that support, or vice versa. It just really depends on the class and what would be a better fit for them and how would the students receive the instruction best. Because sometimes it might be like, if it's a high need class or something like that, and we have a student who has a one-on-one out, and we have some major behaviors in that classroom, then we may have the ed tech stay with the kids instead, because they're able to like help get the kids out and into a different location before we have to have all the kids leave up wherever it may be. But just working hard to kind of think about the classroom and then like the specific classroom, and then find coverage that way. But I can, there's like a lot of if then that we work on at the beginning of the year, but I think that we've come up with a pretty good process, knowing that we don't really have subs. So when we get subs, it's like, oh, awesome.
So I do appreciate the inclusion, but that's one of my concerns is to keep a stability in the classroom. So that's where my concern always lies in that. Did you guys have I'm sorry.
Sorry, just the only other piece with that is, so if we have ed techs that are out that might be working as a one-on-one or a two-on-one or something like that, sometimes we consider the placement for the student. So what's going to be the best place for the student? And sometimes it might not be in the classroom because they are going to get too stimulated, they don't have the support. It takes away from all the other students too. So it really is like, there's not just one way.
Do you guys have a question? Oh, I thought it was sorry. Anybody else have any questions? See, none. Thank you very much. Very good.
Yeah.
You'll be in my dreams. That cat.
How long is this?
I have no idea.
When
When I was here, it was a Mustang.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I would have guessed Mustang if you asked me.
Do you know when it was switched to a Bobcat?
I don't know. We actually found this when we were cleaning out.
Might not, are we sure it's a Bobcat here? You know,
I think it's a wildcat.
Wildcat, whatever. Well, Wildcat's up at the middle school.
Oh.
The Wildcat,
We call him Walter the Wildcat.
well, there's Wildcats up there, isn't there? There's like 3 of them up there, isn't there?
Well, I think there's a
No,
Wildcat.
middle school's a tiger.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but there's the Bengals and then there's the, I thought there was the
Those are all
Wildcats up there.
tigers. Those are all tigers.
There's a wildcat team.
I see, I know there's a Wildcat team up there.
Yeah, there's a.
Oh, yes, there's a team, correct. Now, you're right.
But I was curious because I grew up at them being Mustangs. Yeah, see, just,
I think it was when TPS built, they got rid of Mustangs.
oh, and they went to Owls.
Don't throw your shoulder out.
Just out of curiosity, is this like the only one in the school? Do we have a couple in here?
This is the first one I've seen. This may be like the
I
only
didn't
one.
even,
This
So
is
is it-
literally the first night it's being used.
So one teacher is getting this?
nope, it's in the technology room. And she was like, I don't use it. So I think
people will start using it now.
I was gonna say,
Figured it out.
that's an expensive piece of equipment not to be being used, so. So you gotta be at least one teacher here that would find good use for
the
that.
technology teacher does have a login, but now I do too.
Okay, good. Well, I guess we're all set. Now we're up for the fun stuff. The good news about how great the budget has been, going to be, and will always be, right?
That's right, absolutely.
So it
This
says
is all
presentation.
positive.
It
Under
says
budget, we're
presentation, but
saving
really,
so
this
much
is just
money.
like a beginning, right? And it's just, we have information, Gabby and I just sort of put some stuff together, and questions, all that stuff, and then we'll come back to it, right? Like
So to
this is-
clarify, you're using the new machine too?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
And I have less of a run-up than Kristen did. I'm a little nervous. So I've just given you 3 documents. So the first one, which is up here, is we went back to FY '21, the budget that got approved. No, what's the revised?
Yeah, it's the budget that was approved. It's just a column header.
Just
sorry.
just out of curiosity, can you do
Yeah.
this?
Yes.
Or you use paper.
Watch.
Do you think I can see this too? Oh, there we go.
How's that?
We're getting better all the time.
Thank you.
So for each, yeah, it's just literally like, so for each color is a year, so we go back to FY '21. The budget that was approved, how much got spent, how much is remaining. To just give a sense over time of what is it, how close are we in terms of like, you know, what we said we needed, I would just say FY '21, there's like, the budgeting's a little funky and then because there was ESSER money, there was, you know, COVID money that came from the federal government, like, so you might see some, there's like, at one point I noticed a drastic reduction in maintenance and I think they probably just put it all, like they overused one year, anyway.
When did Gabby?
What's that?
When did Gabby get
I
here?
was gonna ask the same.
Yeah,
FY '23,
20.
right here.
Gabby here.
But this was,
we inherited
we
that
did
one.
not make this budget. I just want to be very clear. This is the first budget Gabby and I made with you guys. This one. This one was the one I got here. We did not have a business manager. No one could give me the budget. And the first thing we did when Gabby got here was like, we need to make sure that the state, that our numbers are what actually got approved at the budget vote, and that that's what the state has. So that was like task one, day one. Gabby, I don't know how you find that information, call Deb Roberts and let's start figuring that out. So, and the numbers didn't line up. We had to make corrections. But we are confident like that got corrected, but this was the budget that was put in place when we started. These three budgets are the ones that we made with you guys. So that's the first thing. What is at the bottom, we just gave a percentage of what percent of the budget was remaining. So just took that number, you know, what's the total remaining from the original budget and just gave you a percentage. Part of the reason why I wanted to do that because I think Gabby and I have been talking about the carryover that we use each year. It's kind of the same amount of money. We'll talk about that in a second. But should it be dynamic? Should it be related to how much was left over to reduce the impact of the budget the next year? So we'll talk about that. All right, so that's the first thing. The second thing you have is, whoa, I think it hit me. Okay, the second thing you have is, again, so this is by warrant article, each budget, and how much it increased from the prior year. So we have FY '21 there, but going back to get some details, I don't have that percentage, but starting in FY '22, what's the increase each year by warrant article? So it's got the total budget increase, but this is where we can start to see where the pressure points are in the budget in terms of like what warrant articles are we seeing larger increases than others, right? Knowing that like a massive increase in system administration is not the same amount of money as a massive increase in special ed, right? Because system admin is just a smaller budget compared to that. But it does give you that sense historically of where those increases have been. So this is FY '23 again. This was the budget we inherited, 24, 25, 26. We went back and tried to sort of see, can we remember what those pressure points were? So why was there an increase, sort of, you know, let's just look at regular instruction. So regular instruction going back kind of 3%, 3.8%, all of a sudden in FY '24 to 6.4%. That was the first year of a new budget. None of you were here when we negotiated, none of you were on the negotiating team, so we negotiated, but you guys approved a budget increases that first year of a total of 6% for the full teaching staff. So it doesn't mean every teacher got a 6% raise. The total pot of money increased by 6%. Part of that was we were really far behind and we were struggling to staff our buildings. So that matches that. The second year, it was a 5% increase. So that also matches that, right? The third year was also 5%, but the increase is only 2.89. We cut a lot of positions last year. We had some expensive retirements that were replaced with pretty beginning teachers. So that's the part, we do this budget before we've completed all, we anticipate what our hiring is gonna be. We anticipate when we hire a new teacher, we're gonna say, knowing we've got maybe 10 openings, we know somebody's gonna retire, we've got some open positions, we budget at a certain amount, and then we hire somebody who's fresh out of college and doesn't need health insurance. So all of a sudden, that teacher goes from costing us $72,000 to $42,000. And there's just no way to anticipate that, right, in December, January, February, March. You just don't know what you're gonna get for applications. So we think that sort of explains why it doesn't match those other two, but these two really do align with the percent increases that we did in the contract. Okay? So that's that. And then the third thing is revenue. So how do we pay for all of this? So this is the budget for each year. It's the same number it took from those other spreadsheets. So that first column is the budget. This tells you how much that increase was year to year. This is what the state share of that was that year. How much of an increase was that from the prior year? The local share, this is the required local share. This is what the state says. If you want $14 million from us, your communities have to come up with $8 million. That's the deal, right? So that's the required local share, what percentage that looks like. The additional local is always the hard one, right? Because that is, the state says, this is what it should cost you for your essential program and services, which doesn't cover a nurse in every building, doesn't like a whole bunch of things that it doesn't cover. That's why the legislature is sort of reviewing that. It's not going to be done in time for anything, but so whatever we don't get from the state and we can't, and the towns haven't given as part of their requirement is where that additional local comes from. The last carryover, or the last pot of money that we have is carryover from what was left, not in the prior budget, but 2 years, because we're still working on a budgeted, an audited amount for this. Would it be from the previous year?
Yeah, so for instance, when we're building the budget for fiscal year 27, we're looking at fiscal year 25's,
right,
whatever, because you're still working in fiscal year 26. You don't know what you're gonna get.
Right. So we were able to go back and look prior to the budgets that we were here to build. It was, we carried over 305, 305, 405, and then basically since we've been here, 550 has been the standard number. These 2 years, there were very specific things that we carried over for. So one, we anticipated getting, I don't remember if it was this year or this year, but we anticipated getting state funding support for the Margaret Murphy program that we put in green. So knowing that money was gonna come, we went ahead and front loaded it in the revenue section, even though we weren't getting it until later. This budget, we front-loaded, we knew we were gonna be getting some incentives for the work that we did at Green and Leeds for the
Efficiency main,
the ERVs that we installed. So we went ahead and we knew that revenue was coming. We knew what the amount was gonna be, pretty much. So we put that in, so that's why that number is bigger as well. So when we knew that money was coming, we were gonna put that in. Go ahead.
So the 704,000, it was actually to continue costs for one-to-one devices, and cover some cafeteria tables and things like that. The next year is the out-of-district tuition. So what happened was we budgeted all of that in fiscal year 24. We anticipated spending it. The state was like, oh, it's a new program. We want to support you. We'll give you 50%. So we didn't spend that money. We carried that forward.
Yeah.
The efficiency main is a different number.
But it was in this, right?
No.
What?
No.
It wasn't a separate, no.
It's a separate one, not
But
included in that.
I thought I did.
Sorry.
We'll talk. It was still counted as revenue. We counted it as revenue.
Yes, it's still revenue.
We counted it as revenue.
Reduced the burden on the local.
Correct. So those two numbers carry over.
We got a calculator. Here we go. Do the math. Come on.
Well, how do I get out of it now?
X.
Where's the, oh.
Yeah.
That is fancy.
Crisis. Okay. So these other spreadsheets were just things that we sort of did. So one of the things that I spent time recreating was like, all right, how many positions have been added? Like, how far back can I figure out, like, how many positions have been added versus taken away? How does that play out? So, the good news is, we're not. It's not like we've done this massive spending spree and added all these positions, because when you really go through, and I'm not saying it adds up money-wise, but bodies-wise, we have eliminated, after last year, we've eliminated more positions than we've created, going back, how far, FY '22,
I think FY '23 is when we started that.
Yeah, 23. So I don't feel confident about prior to that, right? 'Cause we weren't here and I don't know. But we sort of took every single position that we've created and added since, because oftentimes we'll move a position. So we may need a teacher at TPS, but we're not adding a teacher. We're just taking a teacher from Green and moving them over to TPS. So a lot of times, or when we created the facilities director and the maintenance director, that was one position. We split it. We eliminated a transportation supervisor position when we created a transfer. So it's not a one-to-one in terms of money, but it wasn't like a full, we added an entire new position, we eliminated. Same for maintenance. So when we did the maintenance director, the money that we already had that for one director, we just moved it all to maintenance and then created the transportation, eliminating a supervisor. So a lot, when I went through that full, through the full list, and I just made special ed in blue for my own sake, there's like a lot of one-to-one, right? Where something is eliminated when we create something else. So I didn't provide that to you just because I didn't want to give you too much paper, but like at some point if somebody wants it, I'm happy to give it to you. So when I just add it all up, we eliminated 46 positions, added 42.2 positions. Again, it doesn't mean that's even in terms of number, but just in terms of like a body, right?
I do have to ask, a .2 position?
Yeah, I didn't do that. It was a .2.
I know it's hours or something.
It was a PE teacher. They were at Leeds 4 days a week. They added an additional day at Green. I knew that's what they had done, but it got done in the budget process before I got here. So that's the information that you have. Figure this is round one. Like for you guys to just digest some of that, we come back, do it at the next meet, spend some more time on it at the next meeting. I guess I'll be curious to know what would be helpful for you to like start to grasp on this as we get ready to go.
I would be curious on district-wide student population.
Oh, okay, yep.
For the years.
Yep.
How that might correspond.
Gabby, are you gonna write this stuff down? Great. Yep, we'll look at population.
I mean, ultimately, what you're getting as a per capita expenditure.
I mean, roughly, and it doesn't have to be per school, because this is not by per school, so just.
Right, so I can get a per pupil expenditure from state data,
Yeah.
and I provide that every
Yeah,
year, right?
yeah.
So that, and we should, we can go back and sort of pull that back out to sort of, because I think I keep it, I think I give it to you guys for multiple years, or it's just that previous year, but we can pull it for multiple years so we have a sense of what that looks like. Yep.
Now the whole theory behind this is to give us a slightly better understanding of how our budgets are flowing and how they're being formed, which in the end is really supposed to help us help you make so I guess the question coming from the board to you is what kind of early on direction or questions are you looking at from us? What do you want to know from, of course we're all wanting as small a budget with as great an education as possible, that's a given. But, so I guess what kind of, we all know that special ed is special ed, and until somebody figures out how which is not going to happen anytime soon, and then we have our building. So the real question is, I don't know, what is it what will help you form a budget going into the budget season that is more digestible for us. So I guess, what are you looking at for us? What are you looking at from us?
So I think what I remember hearing when we were talking about this in the self-evaluation process is you guys getting more information sort of like historically on the budgets as they've been built before one just gets dropped on you, right?
Yeah.
So, for example, if we go to the warrant articles, right? Last year we know was a bloodbath for special education, right? So special education went up almost 15%. And we spent a lot of time, like, I feel really good that everybody can articulate what happened, right? Main care, out-of-district placement, more kids. Like, it's not more complicated than that, right? And not more money coming from anybody else. So the state says this is how much you get for special ed. The rest of it's on you. I mean, essentially that's how it works. So I think it will be helpful for you to understand what the pattern has been, you know what I mean, for certain warrant articles over others. Certainly the other one we've seen a major increase is in maintenance. I feel like you guys really understand why that is, right? That we've not spent enough over the last decade or so, sort of like maintaining things, repairing things. We didn't really have a capital plan. We're now in that place now. Things are improving, but it's money, right? It costs money. There was one year I did notice where a lot was left over in maintenance. What article is this one? Are you seeing it? There was a lot, there was like $400,000 left. Yeah, 475 is left here, and so compared to FY25, it's only $44,000 left.
Remember that we used reserve funds in capital improvements to cover some of the expenses there in fiscal year 25. Fiscal year 24, I believe that we had a hard time getting contractors
100%.
to
No,
fulfill.
that's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Like, when you see a number like that, like that reminded me, oh, one, I think was this the first full year of a maintenance director? Did we make that change going into 24?
Yes, we did.
So I'm not sure that we had the systems in place to spend the money that we had, right? So we had good plans, but once Dave gets on the run, and he's actually running just that department, we don't have the systems in place to actually do the things that we need to do, and how quickly we can get contractors involved. We're starting to think a little bit more strategically about if we use a reserve account, then we don't have to worry about whether or not we can get contractors. That money is not tied just to the budget. So I think we started to think a little bit more strategically about that, but I think that year was learning like, you can't get money on July 1 and get contractors lined up in time for school to open. Like, that's just not how it works. So that I think was that learning curve. Yeah.
What was we did something with the warrants or we had to shift it to, on one of the, there was one warrant I think in the budget that we had our shift that was, I call it job costing, but we costed it to a different warrant and then we readjusted. What was that, remember?
So if you overspend a warrant, you have to do that at the end of the year, after the year is ended. But once a budget's approved, you can't shift them between.
No,
And we usually do it every year, because most every year we've always done it to a point. I remember transportation had it one year pretty significant.
Are you talking about taking some projects that we had in the budget and moving them to reserve account because then we wouldn't have to worry about the contractor piece? Is that what you're talking about?
No, I think I just said, I'm drawing a blank on, we did something, we shifted because it was, the money was allocated somewhere else and you guys split it up or something.
Is that when we redid the reserve accounts? Because we only had one,
Yeah,
and it was
maybe that's-
dedicated just to the wood chip boiler. So then we sort of said, well, that's not helpful. We need more flexibility in how we're going to spend
Yeah,
it.
that's what it was.
Okay, all right.
When we set that up, we didn't want it to go anywhere but that boiler, because we knew it was
100%.
going to be expensive, and we
Yeah.
figured that if it wasn't set up specifically for the boiler,
Yep.
we'd snag it for something else that we felt was important.
Makes
I
sense.
remember initially setting it up going, if we don't, designate it for it, something's going to feel more important at the time, and then all of a sudden the boiler's going to come.
100%. Yep. Totally makes sense. Crystal?
So going forward for 27, we're doing teacher negotiations. So is there another group?
Just
That's
teachers. Just
okay.
teachers this year.
So we should expect regular instruction most likely to have some form of an increase.
Well, I mean, it's gonna have an increase whether we do, I was
Well,
gonna say, what?
Well,
Well, let's see, there's an increase no matter what, because if you keep most of your teachers, which we try to do, they're all getting a little bit of a raise, like, it's gonna look different, you know, each person's not getting, but there's always gonna be some increase. Is it gonna be the numbers that we saw before? Until we negotiate, we don't know.
Well,
But
the important
I
part
think-
about that is getting good information about what's in the other districts, and don't trust the information from the state.
So, here, let me tell you what we're doing, and this, we've done this before, is what's different though, is we're collaborating with all the other superintendents in the Western Maine region, and instead of each district getting that data individually, we're collaborating to get it as a group, so that we'll all have the same data, and we're contracting with Drummond and Woodson to do it, because they will pull from all of that, and then we're sharing that cost, as opposed to each school district paying for their own spreadsheets and their own data on that. So I think that is gonna be really helpful, because we'll get all the districts in our region, plus a handful of other ones that people handpick, like, you know, Lewiston wants some of the bigger school districts. We don't care, like, I don't care what Westbrook's paying people, right? So that'll get added in there, but we care what Gardner's doing and Maranacook. Lewiston doesn't care about those. So we're collaborating to sort of like reduce the cost of getting that, but making sure that we all are getting good information and the same information. And you're right, we can't, it's not the state, they don't collect it. The only other organization that collects it is Maine School Management, but it's only as good as the data that's put in by the staff in each district, and that's the problem. What Drummond and Woodson will do is they'll go to each contract and literally pull it from there, so that the time that it would take for me to do that or Gabby to do that would just like overwhelming. So we're working on getting that so it's collaborative information.
Does anybody else have any suggestions or thoughts that they'd like, you know, I'm suspect this probably won't come back maybe at the next meeting unless you want it, but within it, it's gonna come back periodically just to keep our mind. So if there's any other information, Alex brought up one, they would like more about our past, our present, kind of where we're going. What would you like to see in the world of
And I think
finances?
if people have questions, rather than me answering them, and, you know, like people asking it, like I'll collect them and then just bring them, like I'll bring that at the next meeting, right? So
Yeah, if you got questions, send them
yeah,
off.
send them, and then we'll try and just keep the conversation going until we start. So we'll start the budget process in November, and
Aren't you requesting budgets by 1st of November?
no. Gabby would prefer that I allow that to happen, but no, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna give
Three
the
principals
directions
right there
at the
going,
beginning
I
of
know,
November.
I'm getting the glare, I see it.
I was like, Gabby, you're just asking for people to make stuff up, like, you can't do it. We'll have them, you know, always we'll have the requests, like Christmas. But I will tell you, every year I've been here, the directions have been, make a budget that keeps the doors open exactly the way you're doing it now. Everything that's new, and, you know, unless it is like, there's gonna be 89 kids in 3rd grade at Turner Elementary, they have to have a teacher, that goes in. But not, everything else is sort of like, and even just starting that is, it just, the first time Gabby and I looked at the number, it's nauseating. It's like, oh my God. And none of it really is useful information until we know what we're getting from the state anyway. Like, it's all just sort of like, all right, this pot of money, how nauseating is it? Until we know what that money is coming from the state, we just don't know how bad it is. It's
And that
always
doesn't
bad.
come until March or
Always,
something, right?
no, it comes
January.
in January.
Did we get in January?
Yeah, January.
Yeah.
No, it seems like it's always still questioning.
March is when we hear insurance,
Okay.
so that's the issue on that.
Right, that's a fun number.
Kyle had a,
Yeah, and insurance, we will be budgeting higher than we have been in the past, so automatically it's gonna be painful.
Kyle, did I cut you off?
No, yes, the same question I was gonna ask, so, thank you.
Great mind. Anybody else? Oh, Alex.
Yeah, no, I would just say that, you know, when we talked about this in the finance committee, I think more than anything, we were just trying to jumpstart everyone's brain a little bit before we get to March.
Yeah.
And have stuff that then we want to find out more information about.
Yeah.
So I encourage everyone to look at this, and if you see a trend you need explained, ask the question, and we can have, you know, a bit each meeting going forward. And that will just make it a more smooth process once we actually get to March. We can give Carrie plenty of heads up on what the goal of the
Actually February.
Yeah. You know, what the overall idea of the board or the goal is.
And you guys can look like, what's it look like for increases every year? So if you want to give us a target number, I would suggest you sort of like look at what the pattern's been. Is there something that we think is reasonable? You know, if you want to say it's 0%, we can give you a budget that's a 0% increase, as long as we're all clear what we know what that means, because you can see the data in front of you, like 0%, if we come in with the exact same number, what does that really look like? Because last year, the percent increase, the budget went up last year 6.76%, and we eliminated how many positions, right? Like, yeah, so, yeah, it's just that difficult. The one thing I remember, I did make a pretty chart that I do want to show you, just because it's going to look good on the screen. So I'm just going to like throw that up there. So this is just the budget trends.
I don't know that I call that pretty.
I it's like
It's
the
relevant.
colors, you kidding me?
I like the colors, but.
Yeah, no, I mean, here's the thing, so this is the total budget, right? So 2022 is the turning point, like, and you know, I mean, and this is all of our lives, like our own individual, like, right? Like inflation, the cost of like just doing business. So that matches, and that's sort of what I went back and looked at. God, did we just add a bunch of people? But we really just haven't added a bunch of people. But it's almost $10 million in a short amount of time. Like that is not a long time period, but that is essentially nearly a $10 million increase in that amount of time. This is the state share, so it's not, I mean, we have gotten more from the state. It has gone up. Last year we got $20 million. If we go back to FY19, it was 14. So, and we got a big jump the year that we fixed our data. We did get a big jump, so that's good. But then when you really look at sort of the required local, the additional local, like it's not that dramatic. It feels dramatic because we can see those percent increases, but it's not like the required local. Last year was 8.9 million. FY19 it was 8.1 million. Like it's just, it hasn't really done this dramatic increase. And it's the additional local that's gone up. It was 4.5 million back in 19. Last year we needed 7.4 million. And then this is the carryover that really has stayed flat, which I think we need to adjust because the budget's now increasing. There should be some tie between, if the budget is this amount, it should be, you know, what is that percent that we want to carry over? Because it's hard to get. You can see the pattern of the budgets. We end up between 3 and 4% left over every year. What did that just do? Jesus.
Shrunk your chart.
Whoa, okay. How do I get that?
You need that in the office, you can play with it.
I gotta swing it?
No, no distractions like that.
So
Oh, now you got it.
I should have clicked the X.
Oh, he's back.
No, I think it was the stop, and then you gotta move it, the screen.
Now you gotta swing it.
One too many, go back.
It
Did
closed it, right?
Yes.
Oh, you're done.
Oh, wait, no, it's there.
I can still see it in my mind, Carrie.
No, I'm gonna make this happen. I'm gonna make this happen.
Yeah, see, there it is.
There it is. What was my point?
I don't know.
Now I gotta remember what I was talking about. Hang on.
The amount of money.
Yeah, you were talking about the percentage of carryover.
Yeah.
Yes, so if what is left, there we go, now I got it. What is left, so each year, so you can see on this first chart, this 1.5 million was left in FY21, which was 5% of the budget. 981 was left with 3.4% of the budget, 4.2% of the budget. So that tells me last year was 0.5%. And that was a special ed that just blew up, right? We didn't budget appropriately, and we were 0.5% remaining. But the pattern is like between 3.5%, 5.5% is left over, which means we should be carrying over more than we're carrying over. Do it responsibly, because we still want reserve accounts, we still need rainy day funds. But given that this is a pretty steady number, marginally predictable, we should sort of account for that.
I
So
should,
what would you think, like a 6%?
I think instead of a number, it should be some kind of percentile. But I think Gabby and I can model it a couple times and sort of see what feels comfortable, because I do think it is the responsible thing to do to also make sure we have reserve accounts so that we can attend to make bigger projects without impacting the budget. So it's just finding that balance.
I should remember this, but I don't. Was our big, huge special ed, which we've had to the other years as well,
Yep.
if you look through there, but anyways, was it number of kids, or was it just overall cost per kid?
Last year
Yeah.
was main care.
Main care, okay.
Was
I knew there was-
was it $500,000? Were we $500,000 over? So the
Um,
special ed budget
yes.
was over by $584,000.
I think it was $450,000 in main care.
The majority of that was main care.
And then we had a lot of contracted services too,
Yeah.
tons of contracted services.
So it was more a financial change up than an additional
Yeah,
20
so
kids?
what we were paying for main care, and, you know, Rebecca had said, like, every year they warn us, we're gonna start charging you more for main care this year, and they just had never done it. And also the problem is when we get billed on main care, so the first bill we pay is from 2 quarters ago, right?
Yes.
So we just got a bill, but it was from
It was from like April.
So it's always 2 quarters behind. So it's really, like, it's not necessarily, we're not necessarily paying the bill right now for kids we have right now. We're paying the bill on the kids we had last spring. So that's another piece that just adds to the complication of, like, predictability. But there's no question, like, we did not budget enough. Like, we just did not budget enough. So we corrected that, but that means this year's budget, special ed went up, what did we say, 15%?
14.75%.
We added 15% more money to the special ed budget.
That's 14%.
14
Thank you, Evan.
I'm sure there's another decimal after that before we get serious. 14.7, but,
Us social studies people like, yeah,
whatever.
somewhere around there.
It's just a number.
And
Now, I'm not saying that.
we're not dealing with any big numbers with this one, but what does lacrosse jump this year?
Yeah, what is the?
'Cause every year it's
stipends?
jumping.
10,000 is what is in the budget this year for stipends. Next year, what'll be the full cost?
Well, I think we had talked about adding transportation and officials.
That's,
So
yeah.
transportation, I don't dare give you a number but it's those two things.
Yeah.
So the current budget has 10,000,
For stipends.
and then the next one's gonna have transportation and officials.
Correct.
Now, will that be, one more year after that will be full, or is that basically
That should
full?
take care of it.
Yeah,
That should basically be
next year's budget will fully own that program.
Like our other, okay.
Yeah. They still have money in their activities account, they didn't spend it all, so there'll be, you know, there is some money there, but we'll own it in the FY27 budget, it'll be our full program.
I've heard that we've had quite a decent turnout in.
Oh, yeah, it's successful,
Very
which,
successful.
I mean, all the numbers indicated that, so, yeah.
Anthony?
That last graph that you showed us with the
My
dramatic
special
increase-
chart?
Yeah. So, can you just send us a PDF of the whole file? 'Cause
Yeah.
That's actually a very effective communication tool.
Yep.
It seems to me, and you buried it. So, like,
I
that's
almost
great.
forgot about it. I actually spent time on that and then I forgot about it because it was like slid over here. So I was like, oh, right, there's
Yeah.
a chart. Yeah, I mean, I've tried multiple ways to figure out how to show that gap, that widening gap between what it's costing us to keep the doors open without, I mean, we've added, we're not adding massive staff. We've added instructional materials, well, because the kids weren't doing very well. So like, you gotta spend money on that stuff. And yet that gap between what we're getting from the state and what the state thinks the community should pay, it's that additional local that is like, that's the number. That's the magic number every budget year is that what do we have to charge the towns more to make all this work? And I think also there was uncertainty in this year's budget with the title money. So we also, if you recall, we put $10,000 in the budget because we weren't sure we'd have professional development to continue to write curriculum. So that all worked out, but because it was so uncertain, we didn't have a choice. So the budget has sort of, we had to make those choices while this all got sorted out. And I would suspect we'll be in that same place next spring. Maybe not, but it seems to be the pattern that we're in. of just not having predictability.
Anybody have any other questions? Thoughts, concerns, comments? Seeing none, thank you
So I
very
will
much.
email you guys a copy of those three, just so you've got them on yours. And then please email any questions. We'll just keep compiling them to continue the conversation. Okay. I'm not gonna touch anything.
I'll, motion to adjourn?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
No.
I'm not going to accept your motion real quick. So, before I accept the motion to adjourn, just real quick, I have got a variety of comments or questions about some things to bring up during meetings in the future from a couple board members that I do hope to bring up in the future meetings. If anybody does have anything that you would like the board to look at, just please send it on to Carrie or I, and we'll try to fit it in when we can. So feel free, if there is a certain department, certain subject, certain whatever, anything related to the school that you think might have not been addressed over the past, just because of for any variety of reasons, just pass it on. I am not going to guarantee we're going to get to it all, because my goal is to keep us at short meetings, at least during harvest. After that, I don't really care. Yeah, for those of you who are looking for it, come November, be prepared for extensions. 10 o'clock on.
Oh, Peter.
I'm just kidding. Anyways, so feel free, send them forward. We have a motion to adjourn by Joe. We have a second from Bree. Was that part of that? Okay. All those in favor of the motion to adjourn? Thank you all for coming, and thank you, gentlemen, for joining us.